I'm frustrated with a lot of things in my life. I'm frustrated with not understanding how to do certain things. I'm frustrated with the rhetoric that people use when talking to each other. And I'm not, and then I had a prolonged conversation about my first love last night. And I don't normally talk about that. I normally don't talk about him. I normally don't even say his name. And so if my all caps someone is listening to this show, you know his name now. You should feel honored. I don't normally tell people his name, because he was that important to me. And so remembering all that has brought back a flood of memories, good and bad, and a frustration with those memories. And all I'm doing is metabolizing. That's it. Because at the end of the day, once all that's gone, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to feel better. Because ultimately, my gut belief is that everything happens for a reason. And everything is a learning experience. Everything teaches you something. Everyone teaches you something. Everything happens for a reason. For example, yesterday when I got off work, I realized that I had left my bus pass at home. But I always carry emergency bus fare in my wallet. It's 75 cents. I always carry 75 cents in my wallet just in case of something like that. And so I went, okay, well, I'll just walk down to the bus station and it'll be fine. But I wasn't even halfway there. It was about a quarter of the way there. And between the traffic and these feelings of impending doom and a lot of other things, I started panicking a little bit, and actually a lot of it. And so I sat down outside of this building. I was sitting on a wall and calming myself down and vaping like a madman. And finally I said, I can't do this, because I've still got 2 major streets to cross, one of which doesn't have a fucking crosswalk. Thanks, Abilene. And, I was just like, I can't do that in this state of mind. Like, I barely can cross that street when I'm clear-headed and happy. And here I am losing my shit over things out of my control. I can't cross these streets. So I pull out my phone and I texted my friend Andrew, and I was like, hey, because he just started driving with Uber. I was like, hey, I'm about to order an Uber, just giving you a heads up. And he sends me a message back. He's like, oh, I'm busy. I'm like, no, I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm ordering the Uber. I just wanted you to have first chance, first dibs. So you go do what you do, and fine. I mean, that's not what I said, but hopefully that was the gist that he got. Anyway, so I ordered the Uber, and my driver was this guy named Terrence. And he was really nice. And we got to talking, and I told him about this podcast and some of the things that I talk about. And he apparently has a degree in psychology. And I think a couple of the things that I said in the course of this conversation got to him. So much so that by the time he dropped me off, he's like, wait, what's your podcast again? Where is it available? And, I hope he's listening to this. Because, yay, listeners. But that made me feel good. That made me feel good. So, there was a reason that all that pain and that fear and just the weight of the world on my shoulders hit me at that moment. Because had it happened even a second before or a second later, I might not have gotten that driver. And I might not have had that interaction that lifted my spirits and that hopefully lifted his. So, the point that I'm making in my meandering way, which is why you listen to this show, right? Anyways, is that I may feel like shit, and you may feel like shit. I don't know. I don't know your story. You know mine. That's not fair. Email me. But at any given moment, you may feel like shit. But feelings are just like food. You have to metabolize them. Don't eat them. Well, I mean, it's good to eat food, but you need to eat healthy food, right? But if you're going to go unhealthy, Rick and Carolyn's steak finger basket, oh my gosh, so good. Except you might not live in Abilene, so screw that. I don't even know if Rick and Carolyn's is anywhere else. But feelings like food, they have to be metabolized. You're going to feel them. You're going to experience them. And that's good. That's healthy. That's what your mind and body and, well, maybe not your body, but a little bit your body. But that's what you're made to do, is to feel feelings. You feel angry, work through that anger. Now, don't do it in a destructive way. Obviously. But there are healthy ways of working through anger and sadness and negative emotions. And my healthy way of doing it is this podcast. This podcast and my ukulele. But primarily this podcast. And the Lit Nerd podcast a little bit. But primarily this podcast. Because it allows me to talk through it. And maybe you don't want to be like me and open your life up to random people on the internet. And that's fine. I'm not saying start a podcast. Find a friend. Go to talk therapy. Find a support group. There's a lot of freedom that comes with communicating and bouncing ideas off of people. I call it freedom through speech. There's a lot of freedom that comes through telling your personal truth. And ultimately, I end up coming back around to the things I say on this show, like, as long as your heart and your mind are working, the only thing holding you back is you. Or, fly with the penguins. That's my favorite thing to say. That everything is gonna work out. And as long as that's sort of like your focal point, you can run the gambit of emotions around that maypole of positivity. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to feel. You're not going to feel sad. Being positive isn't about never being negative to me. It's about metabolizing the negativity out so all that's left is positivity. And that's a process. And so it's not as simple as my all caps someone said last night. He's like, be fucking positive. And I was like, oh my God, that is the most awesome thing. And I told him I'd say it on this show at some point. So hopefully he's listening and going, she said it. Now I can stop listening. Click. No, he's probably not doing that. Anyways, but yeah, it's maybe it's not as simple as saying, just be positive. You got to work through the negativity first. It's a process. As long as what's left is positivity, that's just how it is. It's just spiritual metabolism. Ooh, maybe that's what I'll call the show. Spiritual metabolism. Just like your body breaks down food into nutrients and excretes all the stuff that it doesn't really need. Sometimes that's what you got to do. And you know what? Here's the thing is, I know this show is running longer than I usually like to have my shows run. But now that I've said all this, and now that I've sort of worked through and talked it out, I feel better. Not only do I feel better, like, I'm seriously thinking about going to the Dollar General. Which, I mean, doesn't mean anything to you guys. Actually, it might not even be open. It's pretty early. But it's about a mile away from my house. And Becca don't usually walk that far. I'm not lazy. I'm energy efficient, okay? But, yeah. So, I physically feel better now that I have said all this. And so let me see if I can try and sum this all up. It's fine to feel negative. It's fine to have these moments where your feelings of anger and frustration and negativity manifest and you feel that hopelessness. As long as you don't let that hopelessness stick around. As long as you don't foster that hopelessness. As long as you work through it in a healthy way and filter out all the crap, literally and figuratively. Boom. Yes. And then you can be fucking positive, okay? I still can't get over that. Like, that just made me laugh my ass off. Be fucking positive, he says. And I was just like, really? It made me laugh. It still makes me laugh. And that's what I adore about my all caps someone. He always keeps me in check. And always keeps me thinking. I like thinking. I like thinking a lot. Anyways, that's all I have to say. So, if you would like to find me anywhere on the internet, look for Purple Becca 923. That's PURPLEBECCA 923. That is my username on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. That is also my email address, purplebecca923@gmail.com. That's also my website, purplebecca923.com. Yes. And, by the way, do not send me messages asking me what my favorite color is. I mean, even ironically, like, just don't. Because you will get verbally bitch slapped because it always annoys the fuck out of me. Like, really, I've got purple hair. There's purple in my username. There's purple in my podcast, and you're gonna ask me my favorite color. Really? And I mean, like, I get it. Some people are just trying to be sarcastic. Oh, is that your favorite color? No, it's not. My favorite color is green.